The room is quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of silence that makes your thoughts louder than your heart. You're sitting there, holding onto something that already slipped away, replaying moments as if they might change this time. And that's when the truth finally arrives, not softly, not gently, but honestly. Saying goodbye is not losing, saying goodbye is growing. We are taught to believe that letting go is weakness. That if we loved enough, waited enough, endured enough, things would stay. But Gabriel Rolón reminds us of something uncomfortable and deeply human: there are endings that save us. There are doors that must close so we can finally breathe. Holding on to what hurts doesn't make us loyal, it makes us prisoners. Think about how many times you stayed, not because you were happy, but because you were afraid. Afraid of emptiness. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of discovering who you were without that person, that routine, that identity. Yet growth never happens in comfort. Growth happens the moment you accept that what was, no longer is. Saying goodbye hurts because it forces you to face yourself. It strips away excuses. It asks you to stop blaming the other and start listening to your own needs. And yes, it feels like something inside you is breaking, but in reality, something stronger is being born. Maturity is not about becoming cold, it's about becoming honest. There are goodbyes that don't come with anger or betrayal. Sometimes, love exists, but the future doesn't. Sometimes, two people care deeply for each other and still cannot walk the same path. Accepting the truth is not failure. It's emotional intelligence. It's choosing respect over illusion. And one day, after the tears dry and the nights grow quieter, you realize something unexpected: you survived. Not only that, you grew. You learned to choose yourself without guilt. You learned that your worth is not measured by who stays, but by how bravely you walk forward when it's time to let go. So if today you're facing a goodbye you didn't want, hear this clearly: this ending is not punishing you. It is preparing you. Because every time you dare to say goodbye to what no longer fits, you make space for the person you are becoming. And that is what growing truly means. The night feels heavier now, as if it's pressing against your chest, asking questions you've been avoiding for a long time. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing that the goodbye you're facing is not just about another person. It's about the version of you that existed while they were there. And that realization hurts more than the absence itself. Because when someone leaves, they don't go alone. They take with them the routines, the dreams you quietly built together, the future you imagined without ever saying it out loud. They take the laughter that once felt effortless, the messages you expected to see, the certainty that tomorrow would look familiar. And suddenly, you are left with an empty space that echoes your name back to you. Gabriel Rolón speaks of this moment as a necessary fracture. Not a tragedy, but a transformation. Because growth doesn't ask for permission. It arrives when you finally accept that staying attached to what was is more painful than stepping into what might be. And still, even knowing this, you hesitate. You bargain with memories. You replay conversations, wondering if one different word could have saved everything. But here's the part no one prepares you for: sometimes nothing was wrong enough to fix. Sometimes the ending isn't caused by a mistake, but by a truth. A truth that two people can love each other and still need different lives. A truth that clinging to something familiar can slowly erase who you were meant to become. You remember the moments when you felt small, when you silenced yourself to keep the peace, when you accepted less because you feared losing everything. At the time, you called it love. You called it patience. But now, in the quiet aftermath, you start to see it clearly. Love should never require self-abandonment. Growth begins the moment you stop shrinking. Saying goodbye is not an act of rejection. It's an act of self-respect. It's the courage to admit that something ended not because you failed, but because you evolved. And evolution is rarely painless. It asks you to mourn what could have been while trusting what hasn't arrived yet. There is fear in this space. Fear of loneliness. Fear of repeating the same story. Fear that maybe this was your last chance at happiness. But fear lies. It speaks in absolutes, in always, and never. Growth speaks in possibilities. It whispers that this ending is not the end of love, but the end of a chapter that taught you how to love better. You start to notice subtle changes. The mornings feel a little less heavy. The silence, once unbearable, becomes a place where your thoughts can finally breathe. You begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that were forgotten: your curiosity, your creativity, your dreams that didn't fit into someone else's plan. And then comes the realization that feels almost shocking: you are still here. You are still whole. Broken, yes. Tired, absolutely. But alive. And in that aliveness, there is potential. There is space. There is a future not defined by what you lost, but by what you choose next. Gabriel Rolón often reminds us that maturity is learning to tolerate discomfort without running back to what hurt us. It's understanding that pain does not always mean danger. Sometimes, pain is the signal that something is healing. Just like a muscle grows by tearing, the soul grows by letting go. You stop checking your phone as often. You stop waiting for a message that won't come. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself a little more. And that shift, small as it seems, changes everything. There will be days when you miss them unexpectedly. A song, a smell, a random place will pull you back for a moment. And that's okay. Missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means what you had mattered. Growth doesn't erase love, it redefines it. One day, you'll look back and understand that this goodbye saved you from becoming someone you no longer recognized. It forced you to confront your fears, to question your patterns, to choose yourself without apology. It taught you that staying is not always brave, and leaving is not always selfish. And when the time comes, you'll love again. Not from fear, not from emptiness, but from fullness. From a place where you know your worth and refuse to negotiate it. From a place where love is a choice, not a survival strategy. So if you're standing at the edge of a goodbye right now, trembling, unsure, heart aching with questions, trust this moment. Trust that growth often disguises itself as loss. Trust that the courage to say goodbye is the same courage that will one day allow you to say hello to a life that finally feels like your own. Because saying goodbye is not about closing your heart. It's about opening it wider, starting with yourself. And that is how you grow.